Welcome to Pillar Talk with Rochelle, where authentic people share real stories focusing on one of the 12 pillars in my book, Simply Complex, Leading Out of Authenticity. I am your host, Rochelle Armstrong, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, good morning, my brother TC. How are you?
I'm doing well. My sister. Good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you as well. And I see you're all geared up in your Steelers gear.
Yes. So whenever anybody sees this, the Steelers won last night. I don't know what Monday they're gonna watch it, but Tuesday, whatever week. But last night,
the Steelers won. What was the score?
The score was 29-27.
Oh, so it was a close game.
It ended up being close.
It was probably them close games be good games though.
It was a great game. But anytime the Steelers play, it's a great game.
I heard that. I don't have a team. I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm a sports fan. If anything, I'm when it comes to basketball, especially women's basketball. Yeah. But when it comes to sports, I'm aware. My husband watched sports, football specifically also. Yeah. And so I learned from him, but to try to dialogue, like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that.
It's not.
Okay.
Listen, that's the best place to be too. Don't try to fake it.
So I know a lot of Steelers fans.
Those are good people in your life.
I know Green Bay Packer fans.
Those are some people you gotta shift the relationship. It just can't be as deep. They can bring some good benefits, but you always got to keep your eye on.
And what about them Cowboy fans that I know?
There's just some folk that you learn to keep at a very far distance.
Ooh, I'm learning a lot. Well, I'll tell you what, I know you as TC, and I'm going to give a little context how we know one another, but I know your name is Therron Cunningham. Yes, what do you want to go by today?
Either one. We family, so I'm comfortable.
Okay. So for our listeners, I just want to acknowledge my friend, my brother, as he's really, well, should I say you're my husband's friend? Because by now you're my friend too, right?
Right.
But I met you.
That is how we met.
Okay, but I met you through my husband. Right, and because I've had the opportunity and the honor to interview another one of his friends who has adopted me, and now he's family, and he and his wife are family and friends. Kind of the same with you and Kendra.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge before we really get into your interview is we're going to talk about stand up today, right?
Right.
So stand up, that's one of the pillars in the book that was special to me. So like each pillar is different. Some I favor more than others for various reasons, of course. Mm-hmm. I have to have some type of relationship with all of them because I put them in the book. Otherwise, we wouldn't have used them. Right. But when it came to stand up, if listeners had an opportunity to even listen to season 1, you never heard it. Nobody ever selected that pillar. And so this season, intentionally, I wanted to go over all 12 pillars. So I had to make sure they were all covered. And so I know someone else had considered doing it, didn't get an opportunity to do it. And the next person not necessarily next person, because you just stand up, because that's what you do. And so when I told you what pillars you had to choose from, it's like you intentionally chose the one that I thought was most challenging. And you were like, give me stand up. But how fitting.
Yeah.
Like when I think about, as soon as I even talked about releasing the book, you and Kendra were just on it. And Kendra is his wife. She is my sister, and she's really introverted and really soft-spoken. So you're not going to hear a lot about her or from her, but she's like that silent weapon, like that's always there, always got your back. And that's something as a couple you two have in common. And so I just want to thank you just for the support. Like you had me on your podcast, The Hope Dealer. So I want you to give us more information about that. And had me come and speak at your church. I just saw that you were just, you saw your sister doing something. And you were like, I just want to be a part of
Yeah.
whatever they're doing over there. And so how fitting is stand up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Listen, I appreciate you, and certainly we did meet through my brother, but you instantly became my sister. All of the things that you do to bring to every table that you sit at, you did not hold back when it came to our connection. And then anytime anybody embraces my wife the way you have, loved on her and opened up. And even with, I don't even know if you remember, sometimes we do stuff in seasons that don't even remember, but the way that you, embraced and mentored our oldest daughter, middle school and high school, and you were a point of contact for her as she was looking for, identity and elevating value in herself and her self-worth. We certainly account you as a part of the audience that allowed my family to be on the stage of life. And we thank all the contributions. I mean, you really, I'm telling you, sometimes you don't know how much you impact others' lives. And I guess that's why we're talking about what we're talking about today, because we have to be willing to do it, because we never know what our touch might do. So yeah, it's I don't even, like you said, I would before count it as an added bonus, what I'm saying, that you to the friendship of my brother. But we have carved out space now where we're able to just be in relationship and friendship and do things like this. And so God knew what he was doing. God knew what he was doing.
Always, always. And so thank you for that. It's so hard to receive, like listening to you. There's a part of me like, stop. But, I really appreciate those genuine words, and those connections are real. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we're doing life with you and your family. And so I want everyone else to know a little bit about you, Therron Cunningham. And so tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah. At this stage in life, I certainly, man, present myself first. I'm, emphatically a believer in Jesus Christ, right? You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
but I tell people all the time, many times I'm more silly than I am spiritual. So you got to be careful. I'll get deep into the conversation. We can get serious, but then again, for the next 5 minutes, I'm gonna shoot jokes. So I love Jesus and I love jokes, right? But love my wife, man. Been married 19 years now. We celebrate, man, 3 children. Our oldest being Tiana, Therron, our only son, and then Temple, our youngest. Tiana, literally, as we're recording now on the 20th of this month, we will celebrate the first birthday of our first grandson, Corbin.
Yes.
Yeah, and so excited about that, because every day as a grandfather is a new experience, right?
Right.
Have never been a grandparent before. And so every day being a grandparent is new, and we experience that with open arms and expectation that just the beauty of that new life is going to be added to our legacy. And so in doing that, man, certainly proud pastor, Connecting Christian Church, where we certainly believe, man, that we're a small church, but we don't have to be a big church to make a huge impact in our city, in our community.
Amen.
And so we connect to study the word and serve and share life together. And that's a joy of mine. And so living in the community, as you spoke about, one of my passions right now is the Hope Builder podcast. I'm hoping to just connect with ordinary people who have experienced and overcome extraordinary circumstances in their life. And so we always say on the podcast, we're here to push you to pursue your purposes, your passions, and your platforms that we believe God is uniquely born into the earth to fulfill. And so that takes up a lot, saying of my time, but then, then I get to, I go to work every day, right?
Yes.
And I'm certainly at a time that I'm certainly doing the work that I do. I love the people and the lives that I'm able to touch. But certainly, man, work is a means in which we pay the bills and we feed our children. But those other things that I listed, certainly are the priorities of why I wake up and why I live. So snapshot, you know what I'm saying? Snapshot
Hey.
of
So So beautifully stated. And you know, just a few things I heard. He is really a family man. And that's one of the things that I really admire about him. And I love that he's friends with my husband. Because I'm sure you all have heard the birds of the same feather flock together.
Mm-hmm.
There's some truth to that, right?
Yeah.
And I like that when my husband is with TC and they're hanging out, that my mind never needs to wander off or think about what are they doing, or you know what they're doing? They're talking about those beautiful grandsons.
Man.
And so
trade notes, man. I'm telling you, trade notes.
So I'm glad that you mentioned it, because typically in my interviews, as much as we try not to make it about us as interviewers or hosts, you know, there's some element that you still talk about yourself or maybe your family. Yeah. What I realized is I haven't had an opportunity to talk about that beautiful grandson of mine, Mr. Or. And so I know you and Jamel, you all swap pictures. Me and Kendra may not be as consistent. Every now and then we'll send a video or some pictures. But like you said, that legacy, just as our families continue to grow and you just see life and you just see everyone start to blossom, it's just such a beautiful thing. And so I'm glad that you brought him up, because he's actually part of my happy place. At the end, we'll talk about your happy place. And we know it's not any one thing, but just to hear you talk about Corbin, it made me think about Landon. And immediately I just lit up inside. So
listen, wasn't he gorgeous in that daggone costume?
Oh my gosh, it's the cutest. They are so cute.
I saw him, he was looking on, somebody was holding him, and the way he was looking over the shoulder and the costume rounded out his face.
Just fitting him perfectly. Yeah. I call him my twin. They get jealous. It's okay. You know, everybody be like, he does not look like you. And I'm like, well, he kind of does. And my daughter with Jesse, his mother, was like, I think 3 people have told you that. And I said, don't matter, 3 people see what I see.
Out of all the people, listen, you got to hold on to it. Just hold on to it.
Hold on to it. Don't look nothing like me, brother. Just don't look nothing like me. But I'm just gonna keep on saying he does, because I just love him and just adore him so much. Okay, so one thing that you did touch on also is your podcast. So for those who are listening, subscribe to Hope Diller Podcast anywhere you have a podcast player. That's Apple. That's
Spotify, anywhere.
Spotify. It's so many now. It's a lot. So go out there and subscribe. And then also, I want you to give a shout out to Kendra. She has a business that is flourishing and booming. And so give a shout out to Give Me Some Sugar. Tell us about that.
So Give Me Some Sugar, signature cotton candy, you know, really started, as we talk about it, my wife and I talk about it all the time. It started just from her childhood. She always loved cotton candy. And then as we became parents, working into the lives of our children, we began to volunteer at school festivals, fall festivals at the church, you know, Hallelujah Fest, right? All of that. And she always volunteered to work the cotton candy. And we would leave the churches and the schools, candy all in her hair and you know, on her clothes. And so a couple of years ago, she searched it out, and my wife has always had a hand for crafts and decor, and she does balloon decor and all of that. I'm always the grunt man in all of her businesses, and so she found out, she researched and found how she could mix and flavor and then spin sugars here at the house. And so now we every weekend, man, we're popping up somewhere on some corner, on some street, in some venue.
Love it.
Spinning cotton candy. She has over 40-something flavors that she's able to present right now. You know, from cake batter to cookies and cream, blood orange,
lemon.
Kentucky bourbon, right? And so she loves to spend in any celebration, man. We've gone to wedding receptions. I think she's done favors for baby showers. I mean, it's amazing how when one, you know, go ahead and have the leap of faith to chase after, some of those passions that are in you, and realize that, as I talked to some brothers one time, we did a activity that you have to blow up a balloon and use the air to knock the cup off the table. And at the end of the activity, we said sometimes all you have in life to accomplish your task is the air in your lungs, the breath in your body, and whatever's in your hand. And that is exactly where Give Me Some Sugar has gone. My wife has always had talent in her hand, and always had a dream in her, and we're watching it flourish. So yeah, you can catch her on any type of social media platform. Give Me Some Sugar 502. Give Me Some Sugar 502, and hit her up. Call her, get it in, and yeah.
And they do it with love. They do it with love. Like they show up. Like we've had the honor of attending like some of the events they've been at. As a matter of fact, we had a trunk or treat. Was it last week or week before last?
It was whenever the week of October. Yeah,
it was on October 31st.
Yeah, the Saturday
before. Was so long.
Yeah.
Like you can't even get in. And so my favorite to date is probably the cookies and cream.
Yeah.
I was one of the first people, yes, I'm bragging, to try the bourbon. Like she was just, that's how creative Kidra is. She was just testing it out. Like she was at an event over by the cafe, the restaurant off Brit Street. And she was like, you know what? I've been thinking about doing bourbon. And then just start selling. So like you said, the blessing is really on her hands. But as a husband, I love how you stand up for her and you support her and you represent, because you're building wealth and you're building legacy that your kids and their kids are going to live off of. So just thank you all for the contributions you make to our community.
Yeah. Praise God. Praise God.
All right. So you ready to talk about stand up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. And so I'm going to let you take this in any direction you want to go. But I do want to ask, in your own terms or your own words, what does stand up mean to you? To stand up for someone?
Right. I think that, when you talk about stand up, it's certainly so many things that come to mind. Protector, provider. I think, when you talk about you're literally a buttress, a place of support. When we talk about it as and I saw how you alluded to it, your personal testimony about your father and your relationship, how that when one is standing up, they literally can be pouring into someone's identity, right? Molding into someone's identity of who they are for the rest of their lives, right? You know what I'm saying? That you can step into someone's life at one moment, and what you are able to plant in the inception, carries on for years to come. And so stand up, again, like I said, there are moments where I pulled from the reading, and thinking through it, that you are a protector, and that is, not only physically but literally of someone's purpose, a protector of someone's place, and someone's right to be there. I'm a preacher, so I think Luke 15. One of the times that I think that Jesus clapped back the loudest. I always tell my folk, when you read the Bible, try to not just read it to get the words, but read it to try to get the tone. What's the vibe of it, right? Luke 15, Jesus is clapping back to the Pharisees and the religious leaders when they're asking him, why are you eating with sinners? And Jesus like, hold up, you know what I'm saying? Like, they came to see me. And he rolls out those parables, but he's rolling out those parables because he's standing up for the right to be there, right? Just the right to be in his presence. And so stand up is part of that. Like we're protecting one's right to be where they are.
Yes.
And so when I was thinking about reading it, and we can talk about it more, but part of, like, when we say that, when we talk about the workplace or within society, when we're advocating for social justice and justice just across the board, the right for one to be where they've been invited to.
Yeah.
I love that when I was reading, you were saying like, with the part talking about the job and not the promotion without compensation. It was like, but yo, you invited me here. You asked me here, and then you treat me wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
When someone is invited into a place and welcomed in, there should be people there who stand up for them to protect their right for where they've been invited.
I see where this is going. I'm gonna try not to take notes the whole entire interview because I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna listen to it intently. I'm gonna take notes, but then I'm gonna listen to it again the day that it's published, as if I never heard it before.
Right.
I enjoy the interview.
Do it, yeah.
But I already see what you get ready to do, and so I made sure I got tissue. I don't plan on being emotional today. But as I'm listening to you speak so eloquently and so passionately about standing up for people, I didn't realize how much this pillar resonates with me and how it evokes this emotion. Because like you said, so many people are treated less than, like they don't have a right to be there. Or even more, once you're invited to be there, treated less than, as if you should just be happy to be here without the benefits of being in that particular environment. And so I want to know for you personally, have you ever experienced somebody not standing up for you in a particular situation or a point in life that you felt like they should have?
I feel like they should have. So I think, yeah, when you I think, growing up, and right now in the racially charged atmosphere that we still live in 2021, I think back over when I'm challenged to not be frustrated when I'm talking to some of my brothers and sisters who to my white brothers and sisters who seem to be unconscious about where where we are in America when it comes to race relations. And I can remember when I was being young, where I would have white friends, and we would run into racist people, and the absence of them using their social equity, man, that I now know they have, to where they're able to stand up and to just stand in lieu, just stand in leads with me, right? You know what I'm saying? And just stand up and say something and denounce what was coming at me. And those times in family, I think many times with our parents, there are moments that we wish that, saying the one parent would have said something when we know that many times we react not out of principle but out of emotions, and we want a parent to stand up and say, hey, calm down. You know what I'm saying? That's still our child, right? You know
That's
what I'm saying?
right.
You can't beat your child to sleep now and talk about you love them. You know, like so. You know what I'm saying? Like you and the reason why I bring that up is because we do carry the trauma of moments where we believe someone should stand up for us, where we would hope that someone would stand up for us, whether whether the memory is correct and 100%, we do carry with us those times that we believe someone should have. And that's that again, growing up in our culture. I had so many cousins that I got to write them down to know all their names. We would seem like it was 20 of us within 3 years of each other. And just when you think about family in those contexts, when somebody gonna went too far, right? You know what I'm saying? And all of y'all see that I'm crushed, but ain't nobody gonna say nothing. And rather than saying something, immaturity steps up, and rather than you standing up, you laugh, right? You know what I'm saying? And so those moments that we carry with us, where we maybe have blocked it. So even when you're asking a question, this brings up those things for me, that it could be like in the workplace, what I'm saying. But if we really think about it, that feeling that we have as adults when we feel somebody should stand up for us, if we stop and evaluate, it's really not that foreign, because there have been multiple times in our lives that we felt like someone should have stood up for us. I'm a football fan, and this, I can tell you this is something you can hear about, right? Football, they got a rule that you cannot hit a defenseless player. once a player is out there and he's trying to advance, whether catch the ball, whether he's running, there's a certain time that the defender must pull up and not hit him in a certain way because he is vulnerable. And you can be penalized on the field if you hit a defenseless player. I don't know about you, but I wish there was referees in my life
Yes.
that would have thrown the flag when friends, families, and enemies hit me when I was vulnerable and I couldn't defend myself.
Give me a moment.
Right. Yeah. What I tell my people, I felt that in my shana. I was saying that. Yeah, praise God.
Like I know how you are with language. I had it like, I guess because you all are preachers, you're such just amazing orators. Like you're such prolific speakers, and so I'm fascinated with words and language and how you use them, and hearing you use the term. I think you said, hold on. I wish I would have had someone throw the flag in for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to hear you use that metaphorically, like knowing what it means in terms of football, but even for our listeners, and I know how I feel when I hear that, wishing I had someone throw the flag in for me.
Yeah.
And I want to go deeper into what that means, because as I was listening to you speak, you touched on different areas. We want people to stand up for us. You talked about standing up for someone is like protecting them, protecting their purpose, people having the right to be there. And once they're there, like they're not invisible. And so a couple of areas you mentioned was family.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is touch on family. I would like to touch on the workplace, and because you are a pastor church. Right. So will you hold me accountable if I forget?
Yeah. We can do it.
Okay, so the first one we're going to talk a little more about is family, because some of the things you said, I know it resonates with our listeners because it resonates with me. We're at an event, maybe it's not even an event. We know what's going on in Uncle Joe's household. We know what, whomever is going through. It's like the family secret. Nobody talks about it. But that person, like you said, is dealing with that pain, dealing with that trauma. We see them. Do we just make jokes? Do we laugh about it? Do we try to have some empathy and understanding? I don't know what emotions are going on, but what my question is for you is, just in your infinite wisdom and life experience, why is it that when we see people who are being abused, whether verbally, physically, emotionally, and we know about it? I'm not talking about unknowingly. But we know about it. Why do you think we don't speak up in the family?
That's good. And I'm gonna tell you, I totally appreciate it that you used the word infinite. So with that, like that's dope. You know what I'm saying? That's love right there. That's love. So I guess I'm thinking through it, and I think personally, one, I think in one instance, I think many times we can be innocent and not really seeing the damage that is happening right in real time. Like you hear somebody begin the sentence, you hear the sentence, and you hear the ending of the sentence, and you're like, oh, okay, whoa, like yo, that's too much, right? And I think sometimes we're innocent in that we don't like really rate the level of damage of what is happening is going on. And then also I think we can be innocent of the fact that if we're entering into what we believe are safe spaces, our antenna is not up, right? You know what I'm saying? Our antenna is not up expecting damage to be done. Now that's two things that I'm thinking about. So you're not going in ready to be on the offensive in case somebody, does something against someone that you love, because you believe you're in a safe place.
Okay.
But now we can get deep with that, because many of us come from cultures created in our families that destructive language and damaging of emotions and pulling others down has become a part of the norm.
Speak on it.
Right. And so it's like we ain't gonna say nothing, because this is who we are. So I've been conditioned that many of us don't know until we are in non-toxic environments
Mm.
that we were birthed, raised, and lived in some toxic environments. I like a pet peeve for me, because I've never been cursed out by my parents. I've never been cursed. I just, hey, they chose whatever. I've never been cursed at by my parents. My parents cursed. I've heard them curse, but I've never been cursed out by my parents. But for me, as an adult, it hurts me when I hear parents curse not only around it, but curse at their children.
Yeah.
And just curse at them as if they're adults. And I think it's because my environment was not that. And
That's
so
right.
when I'm engaged or introduced to it or around it, like my antenna, I'm like, yo, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the converse for the other one.
Absolutely.
For the person who is raised in that environment, it is so much of a norm that they believe they're just existing in a norm. Now, what do we know? This is one of the beauties of your book, is that we have to be transparent that though that was the culture that we were raised in, it was tearing our soul up.
Oh my goodness.
It
Scars.
was, our spirit was damaged. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people do we know in our families that can give it the way that anybody can give it? I can cuss you back, I can come back at you. But when that one thing is said,
talk about it.
You see that toughness in their face, but then you also see that tear.
Yeah.
That is evidence that you don't appreciate the norm. And that you're hurt. So I think that many times we are innocent, that this is the culture and the environment that we are in, and we are in a place of immaturity, that we haven't matured to the place that we understand that this is not acceptable, right? It is not until we're placed in the other surroundings. Some of us, I think that's part of the maturity of marriage. People get into marriages and then you realize like your spouse wasn't raised the way I was raised, and we're trying to love each other in the way that we thought we were being loved, and then we have to mature to a place of being different. And let me, if anybody's listening, if you're wondering why your relationship ain't working, it might be because y'all not trying to mature out of what you brought to the table. It could be that y'all trying to love the way that you thought you were being loved and never got to a place that you mature and realized that ain't what I wasn't being loved.
Wow.
And you're trying to bring,
loved.
You wasn't being loved. You were being hurt. And you thought that you were being loved because it was coming from somebody that should have loved you.
This is so good. This is so good.
No, I mean, you know what I'm saying? No, like no parent should speak to a child that way. No grandparent, no sibling should treat a sibling that way, in a normal, healthy setting.
In a normal, healthy setting.
Not perfect. A normal. We was at a family invited us over for dinner the other night, and the oldest child, the beauty of watching her care for her siblings. And what was she, 8 years old? Watching her care for her siblings, and I mean, picking up here you go, little brother, dude. And I'm saying that is a healthy way for siblings to function. Not perfect,
healthy,
but a healthy way. And they're going to be, and so to get back to the.
You're doing great.
So we don't step up because of norms that have been surrounded, but then also I think there's a lack of security that believes that we're going to be able to defend at the level that needs to be done, and so many times we shrink back rather than stepping into a fight or engaging in a situation that we're not certain that we will survive. Can we talk about that? Like many times when I see you hurting somebody else, I'm not gonna step in out of some dysfunctional thought of self-preservation.
Come on now.
So I ain't gonna step in. That's why older folk now in the neighborhood don't say nothing to kids on the block.
That's
right.
Because
they don't know if they're gonna be able to survive what the mama say now. Used to be the mama would join in with the person and they would do it for the child. Now you don't know if you're gonna survive the moment of stepping in and saying something. And so I think a lot of times we don't step up and stand up in those situations because we're not certain that we'll be able to survive the attack ourselves. That's a cause for pause, man. Sometimes it'll cause you to hesitate, because you see that supervisor treating that person wrongly, but you don't know if you're gonna survive if the supervisor turns his target on you.
So hold on, because see, you so good. You know this is a book. You just ain't put it on paper. So hence, I'm encouraging you to do that, because this is good teaching. And I know that it's really making people uncomfortable right now. That's good teaching.
Yeah.
We start making people uncomfortable because we got to deal with some things. And so one of the things I was going to ask before we go over to the workplace, because that's what you were getting ready to do, but you got to let me ask the question, right?
Sure.
So, but before we get there, before we leave the family, it was something you said, like back in the day in my neighborhood, not only could a neighbor say something to us, they could actually spank us. Like they were given permission. Yeah. Like if they saw us doing something we were not supposed to do, they could discipline us. So I say that to say some of the caution that I'm hearing in terms of self-preservation is in fear of physical harm.
Oh yeah.
But then there's also in the family, if you see someone being emotionally or verbally abused, there could also be self-preservation because you don't want to be emotionally attacked as well. So it's going to take some courage. But what I'm also hearing is some awareness. Because if this is my norm, and this is how I was raised, and this is how we grew up, at what point do you even realize that was unhealthy? And
listen, so here's the truth. This is where many times as pastoring, like we intersect in these realities. When this is why we can't just say in the church world, we can't just throw out the blanket word gospel and say Jesus will and just think that stuff is gone. You know what I'm saying? Just shift. No, it's as Jackie Hill Perry says, it's Jesus and therapy, right?
Jesus and therapy.
That because there are so many people. Here's the sad reality. That there are so many people who will journey through life and never and I'm gonna say this, would never mature to a place to understand that there are different ways to live, that you can have a paradigm shift. You can have an awakening. You can become conscious, not just to the need of social justice, not just to do, you know what I'm saying? We counsel the wrong things in our culture. We need to counsel some of this toxic relationship, toxic parenting, toxic marriage, toxic singleness, right? We need a toxic way, and we need to counsel some of that because many people will journey and never mature because I believe that they are introduced to it. They come to a place where they recognize, but they don't mature to the place to have the strength to step outside of it, to move away from it. In our families, I see it when I see. I never thought, growing up, that I think all of us can say this. We see certain family members parent a certain way. Like when your mom and them didn't smoke weed with you,
right? No,
they spanked you when you smoke weed. Now we understand that you went through all of us go through our periods of rebellion, but you saying you still rebelling against your parents by smoking weed with your children?
Can you say that again? Can you say that one more time?
You cannot. Everybody goes through their periods of rebellion against authority, but you're telling me you're still rebelling now as a parent. So you're going to parent in rebellion against your parents. And here's the thing, you ain't mature enough to see that your parents didn't damage you, but you're damaging your child. Woo. Right? Like it's a maturity thing that when we have, look, sisters, I tell my sisters all the time, I think, there's a deal with abstinence, there's a deal with being wise, there's all of that. But there's also a deal that sometimes you're gonna have to mature from wanting Allen Iverson and have to go with Wayne Brady. You know what I'm saying? Allen ain't
break it down for those people because that's basketball, right?
That's basketball.
I got it.
Well,
So break down the
Allen
difference.
not only is Allen basketball, but he hip hop, thug passion, all that wrapped up into one. You know what I'm
Break it
saying?
down.
But here's what I'm saying. But here's the deal. If you look at interviews, Wayne uses some of the same language, he has some of the same drive, some of the same passion, but he's wrapped up in a different package. And my point is that we get caught up in wanting one thing, and what happens is we pass on the opportunity to mature. And so we rather and so what happens is we don't ever mature, and so we get stuck in one lane, and we never make it out. And so so when you say, well, with family, like we don't. That's why I say all the time to young people that I speak to, love your parents, respect your parents, take what your parents give you, but have no reservation in saying, I love you, I respect you, but there are certain areas and elements of your life that I dare not repeat. I shall not make that a part of my legacy. I shall not push that forward. My children will never know that aspect of your parenting. They may know it as my childhood, but they'll never know it as an aspect of your parenting, because I will not introduce that into, and that is evaluation, that's self-reflection, and that is maturity. And if we don't choose that, we pass stuff on, and that is a way, sis, that really just done. That's the way we stand up.
Yeah.
That's the way we stand up. I can stand up against my parents and how they, and some of the dysfunctions that they brought to my life without ever saying a word to them, because I'm standing up against them by how I'm standing up for my children. And I'm parenting the way that I am because I refuse to allow what happened then to impact me now.
So you're my life coach right now.
This is an interview. This is dope.
So you say. So what I'm thinking, as I was listening to you, and I talked about making people uncomfortable, I could really reflect and see how, especially with our older two kids, John and Jesse, how I brought over some of my dysfunction and some of how I was raised. And I always tell people, even with my Christianity, there's some foundational things that are good and that I want to hold on to, and I do want to pass on. But there are some things that weren't. There were some things that were unhealthy, some things that should not have been done or said that maybe I did as a parent, unbeknownst. Like we talked about, like when you know better, you do better. So we're talking about standing up for someone. Can't stand up for someone if I don't think anything's wrong with it.
Right. Look, mama and them did that to us, and look how we turned out.
But how did we turn out, right? And so I say that, personally, not speaking on you or your situation, because even when you said your parents had never cursed you out, like they couldn't see my face, but I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but I'm sure some people could relate to that. But I'm sure a lot of people can relate to being cursed out.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, that's not a norm. So if you hear someone else doing it, you're like, no, we don't do that. And so I had an uncle specifically would cuss you out one side, up one side, down the other. You knew he loved you. He would do anything in the world for you. It was a norm.
Yeah.
But once I got older and I matured and I noticed like, that's not right. That's not what you're supposed to do. I start parenting differently. Right. But it took me to raise them two older babies.
Right.
Do much better with our younger baby, Deja. Yeah. And so I there's no condemnation in those who love the Lord. And so I tried, because for years I would feel guilty. But I recognized and like I unmasked and I could see the person that I was, the parent that I was. I felt so bad, but it was something you just said. My kids were so gracious to me. They are so gracious to me. When you said you're talking to young people and you don't even have to tell them, or they don't have to say to their parents, like, you were wrong, you shouldn't have done that, but you just doing something different shows them that you get it.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Just classy.
Yeah.
You know, they never, and even when I try to take accountability and be like, you know, I know maybe I did this or I said that, or, you know, I'm so sorry, they would be like, it wasn't as bad as you think it was. Or like in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, it was, but that's them extending grace to me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Which is why it's so important for me to extend grace to others, because I'm a recipient of it. And so now that we really broke down like family and what it looks like to stand up for someone, and how are you on time? Because we got about
I'm good.
we got a few more minutes before we wrap up the hour, but
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I've mapped it. We good. We good.
People, I know they're learning. I know they're growing and maturing from this conversation. So I want to go a little deeper. So I can't really expect someone to come into the workplace and stand up for people if they didn't even know how to do it in their family dynamics.
Right.
So you already took us through that. So we're not going to go back there. But now we're in the work setting and we have leaders.
Yeah.
Not only do we have leaders, we have peers.
Right.
And we are the person reporting to someone. And what I'm going to say, in all those relationships, you have an opportunity to stand up for someone.
Right.
So now that we're in the workplace, or we're in these positions of power and influence, what does standing up for someone now look like after you put in the work of healing and maturing to being able to stand up for someone?
Dope. I want to be a good guest, and I want to answer this question, but I'm gonna give 15 seconds to this right here. One of the reasons why your children are able to give you the grace that they're able to give you now is because in your maturity, you stayed connected to them. They know you from where you were, but they also saw their mother mature and grow. And they saw your parenting style and what you did for them shift and grow. They saw you make decisions in your personal life that now poured over into what they were doing. The choice that who you brought into their life, the man that you married, how you all developed and grew together, and how that you impacted your life. And this is something that the listeners must know, is that when we talk about maturing, immaturity is not a curse word. Maturity is not condescending, right? It is saying that we are building bridges, we're taking steps, we're living out levels, and the beauty that you experience in the grace of your children is because you stayed connected, you grew, and you loved, and you shifted how you loved, right?
Yes.
How you remember we talked about it, your norm shifted.
Yes.
And not only did you protect their minds, protect their hearts, but then you also learn how to love them as they got older and as they matured. And so you didn't parent them as children anymore.
No.
You parent them as adults. And when they maybe stepped off and did some of the things that you never as a parent thought they do, as a child they never thought they do, you remain consistent. And I watched you do that. I watched you do that with your older two in all the circumstances that both found themselves in. The one thing that they could always say, Mama gonna show up. And but understand and here's the deal, that's not everybody's experience, because what happens is in family, we'll be raised in dysfunctional environments, we'll become adults, and then there'll be distance. And we will be uncertain. On top of the toxic environment, there's a level of uncertainty, like, well, does this person actually love me? When you have moments of your darkest step off and those people don't show up, that's dysfunctional. You showed that hey, listen, I'm here for you and I'm gonna show you. And that is why, and that is the important, that's why I always say to people, hey man, you need to step back into their life.
Okay.
You need to step back. But you never stepped out. You never stepped out, and I applaud you for that. Because as parents, when our children become adults, it can be very easy for us to step away for a while.
Can we sit in this for a moment?
It could be easy. It could be easy to step away. But I went over my 15 seconds.
No, you're good. Well, you're helping me. And this is why, like, we're really all life coaches for one another. when I listen to you, even though I'm saying they're gracious to me and I've kind of overcome some of the guilt, when you have people who have been on the journey with you, and watching you, thank God for you, because sometimes you think it was worse than what it was, but to hear you say that.
Oh, sis, I can't tell you. I count you and Jamel as people, man, who helped me. And you know what I'm saying? Like I'm Spitfire.
Yes.
I could jump and I can go from 0 to 60 and then go on and take it to 100. And that was something that I had to learn to manage in my blended family.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And we can share, and I think we could probably we probably need to do a whole other session, and then we probably need to do some therapy together, you know what I'm saying, and blended parents and
yes.
and sit and talk, because the early years when our families are blending can be so dysfunctional because we don't know what the heck we doing.
No.
We don't know what the heck we're doing. My wife as a single mother with her support system, trying to learn how to allow me to be the support system, and how you move away from, her mom and her 2 siblings and her grandmother who were her support system no matter what. And now you got to trust, what I'm saying, this loudmouth, what I'm saying, broke dude, what I'm saying, he's now going to be the support, and you're trying to create space. And then I know nothing about parenting.
Yeah.
She had me beat by when I met her, Tiana was 4. And so she had at least 4 years of committed to parenting her daughter. I'm running around single, not knowing if I want to date women with children.
I heard that. Talk about that. Right.
I had a long way to go, sis.
Yeah.
And when I realize, watch this, when I mentor now, I tell women, if he don't love your child, you can't marry him.
No.
And you got to ask yourself, why are you dating him? And I tell men, if you only want the woman and not the child, keep moving.
Keep moving.
Keep moving. Because you're going to be disruptive and destructive. And if you're entering a relationship dysfunctional, talking church cliches, talking about God can work out anything, it don't mean that he going to do it for you. And the damage that we do, God has the ability to repair. But sometimes God is like, I didn't ask to do that work.
Right.
I shouldn't have to repair, because when I birthed them into the earth, they wasn't damaged by you. You damaged them. So you're asking me to repair what I did not break. So if you don't enter into that relationship, if you just show her respect and love, and you show her kindness, and you follow the truthfulness of your heart, where you realize you may like her, but you don't want the child, keep moving.
Keep moving.
If he don't date you, man, if I got a listener, if he don't date you and your daughter and your son, I don't care how many children you got. If you got 1, if you got 2, if you got 5, if he's not willing to date the unit and fall in love with the unit, keep moving.
I commend you. And that's what I love about you all as men. And again, I just love the friendships that Jamel has, because this is the quality of men that he has in his life. And I feel like we all benefit from one another, and so, no, I thank you for taking time out and taking 15 seconds.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get
you. But no, because you weren't only speaking to me, because there's other people out there who needed to hear that too. So it's relevant. Like it's all relevant. It's all, like you said, we can have a whole nother podcast.
Just on blended family.
What you said. Yeah, because it gets that deep. All right. So
workplace.
As I go back to the workplace and just thinking about standing up for people, you're a leader, a peer. Like I said, you're reporting to someone. What does standing up for someone look like?
Yeah. We in the workplace, I think, like, it could be one, it is needed. It's 100% a characteristic of healthy leadership. You are a partial leader if you are not standing up for the people that you over. You and I think there's a level of falsehood in your leadership. There's a level of deceit in your leadership if you're not willing to stand up publicly and privately for the people that you have been positioned to lead. Why do I say that? Smiling in my face. You know what I'm saying? Backstabbers, right? Like you, if you tell Rochelle that she's dope in front of the team, but in the meeting after the meeting, you run down 3 to 5 characteristics of Rochelle that she ain't. She just ain't this, and she thinks she all this, and I gotta say that because of whoop the whoop. You are deceitful. You're deceitful. I would rather you not, as a leader, don't say in public what you're not willing to defend in private.
I love that.
And so as a leader, and then also, we are this thing in pastoring. One thing that I heard Pastor Eric Mason up in Philadelphia say is that we have to be careful in leadership in church. He was talking about church leadership, and he was talking about the trend of church plants, right? He's like, man, people are just church. They're just doing whatever. Like, they're throwing it out there because they want to be up front, right? They want to be. And he's like, man, listen, like, you never can forget that you're handling real lives. So whether you're the pastor, whether you're the Pope, whether you're the president, or whether you are a assistant supervisor at McDonald's, you're handling lives. Your fingerprints are going to be on their lives, and the question is, are you developing this individual?
Yeah.
Or are you just you're waiting for the next person? And that is if you have a question, get more specific. But I'm saying, like,
no, this is good.
When you're in leadership, like, when you know, and you said it in your book, from your actions. I can, because my uncle said this. He said, nephew, he said, be careful how you treat your woman. He said, because your woman has decided she's gonna leave long before she left.
Your uncle said that? I don't even know which one.
He said,
that's good.
He said, why? He said, because she's already decided that she's gonna leave, but she ain't left yet. And you talked about that in your description. Like, I can gave 18 months to this, but I'm looking for my off ramp. I'm looking for, and it's not because I'm inept. It's not because the company is the toxic. It's because that leader has shown through their actions they are not invested in me.
Yeah.
And there's and again, that's why I say, as a leader, if you're not, if you don't go in knowing that you're handling real lives, and all you're dealing with is the margins, if all you're dealing is the bottom line, you're gonna be you're a toxic leader. And people are going to leave you. People are going to leave you and go to the other side. And here's the deal: your leadership legacy is going to be tainted. You would not be all that you could be, because no leader can make it anywhere without a great team, right? And so if you're not developing and growing your team, then your team won't be able to do the things that their gifts and talents allow them to do, that now will bring you recognition. Which now gives you opportunity to give them recognition. And you only look as good as the team that you have developed. So yeah, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. People realize.
I'm so glad you said that, because have you ever heard the adage, people don't quit their job, they quit their leader?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And I think a lot of times we want things that look attractive, because a leader has power. A leader can make decisions. They have influence. But I like the statement that you said, that you're really dealing with real lives. And I think sometimes we get caught up into the things that look good about leadership, but not knowing there's going to come a day that this person is beyond their metrics. They're beyond their numbers. Like,
Yes.
I'm going to have to stand up for them and support them and believe them.
Yeah.
And that makes them feel like they matter. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times people don't quit the job. They
Right.
quit the leader. And so
Quit the
I'm
leader.
very honest about that when I talk about leaving my company, is that it wasn't that the company itself was bad. The institution is a wonderful institution to work for. To this day,
Yeah.
I still encourage people, sure,
Yeah.
apply there,
Yeah.
work there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a matter of getting a good leader and being on the right team.
Man,
And so
it's so vital.
you touched on it, like you touched on all of that, and you really kind of touched on the church as well, because I think sometimes people misunderstand that even in a church environment, some of the same rules that apply, like in corporate America and in the family, rolls over to the church. So, do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Listen, so yeah, because I've experienced it, you know what I'm saying, in the church. I've been in corporate America, but but I never really, so when you talk about like the top, like most people work in corporate America, never work close to the CEO.
Right.
Never meet the president, you know what I'm saying, or the vice president.
Mhm.
You'll meet maybe the regional, manager of regional vice president, but you never meet the person at top. In the church, I worked right alongside the pastor. I
Uh-huh.
was on the leadership teams. I was, young in the ministry, young in life, young in the ministry. I was behind the curtain, behind the door, and many times I know now I shouldn't have been in some of those rooms because I was not mature enough. And again, I use maturity a lot because maturity does not necessitate intelligence.
Mhm.
You can be highly intelligent and tremendously immature,
So true.
and your intelligence has an opportunity to grow because of experience, right? And so there were times that my experience and my immaturity, I should not have been in those rooms, and because I could not handle and process correctly the dysfunction of the personalities. And in church, a lot of times, pastors are not seen as humans, they're not seen as real men. And so what happens is people don't process rightly their dysfunction. Now, that's on one end. The other end, and when I say that is not a defense of wrongdoing. What
Uh-huh.
I'm saying is that pastors need to mature the same as other people need to mature. And in maturity, when you're in the church, many times the immaturity of the top leader, the pastor, is highly exposed because there are not levels like it is in corporations.
Correct.
And so in the church, one of the challenges as pastors is to be transparent, to say, at times like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I don't know what we getting ready to do. We spiritualize it, talking about we getting ready to go pray. Okay. Yeah, we are gonna go pray, but then we also gonna go process. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And we're also gonna hopefully go read something or talk to some other people
Uh-huh.
and all of that stuff. But then sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't do none of that.
Mhm.
Sometimes we jump out and just do stuff, and we don't consider that we're dealing with real lives.
Mhm.
And so we will bring people into decisions that are not mature, that we haven't assessed the people. We don't know if they're ready. We just want to do it. And we carry people out into areas that they can't swim. And when they start drowning, we accuse them of rebellion.
Ugh.
You took me too deep, though, Pastor. I wasn't ready for this. You took me too deep. And this is just in leadership. This ain't talking about moral.
Mm.
We know about the dysfunction of immoral leadership.
Mhm.
We're just talking about immature decisions or getting folk excited about stuff. The pandemic, if the pandemic, and I was just in a room with a pastor the other day, and I said, the quarantine has taught us that there is so much that we need to shave off when it comes to the work of the organized church.
Talk about
Um,
it.
and there's so much that we need to get to, that we have the ability now. If we just go back, if we're talking about data proven stuff, if the church didn't even consider it a priority during the quarantine, why consider it a priority now?
Mm.
If it wasn't a priority when people were not in the seats, why is it such a priority now? And you got to ask that question. Well, that's how we've always done it. Well, I tell you what, there's a reason why McDonald's takes away the McRib for a couple of seasons and then brings it back.
Talk about it.
Because it does it because because it has to create a palate.
Yes.
If we don't, there are some things in the post-pandemic church that we're going to have to do vastly different. And we ain't got to burn down the whole system, but leadership assesses and says, what do my people need? Because I'm dealing with real lives. If wasn't nobody worried about meeting on Saturday at 10 o'clock during the quarantine, I'm stepping on toes. Like I'm getting ready to go through my whole list like we wasn't recording. What I'm saying is that the work of leadership, understand that you're dealing with real lives, and that in the church we have to assess the lives that are in front of us, but then also look to see, are we looking to gather lives that have been gathered around us, and we have to be willing to say, yo, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, and because I don't want to lead you into waters that you cannot swim, let's slow down and just have a church-wide swim lessons. Let's just stay in 4 feet for about a year.
For a year or so.
For a year.
4 feet.
Until we start seeing, but that's I can see now. To me, so 4 feet.
4 feet. Okay, so I'm a processor, and I took copious notes. Although I said I wouldn't, you allowed me time to take notes. So we touched on a lot when it comes to stand up. Yeah, I mean, you covered everything, in my opinion, that, to stand up as a protector, a provider, to support, pouring into someone's identity. Like Luke 15, like you just broke it all down.
He clapped back.
And always, like, Jesus was that man to clap back, but we paint this picture that he was just this subservient, just make you feel good type of father. But no, like you said, even he would clap back and hold people accountable.
Yeah.
And I think that's another element of stand up, is we're not just standing up for people's wrongdoing or we're condoning what they're doing. Behind closed doors, we're having the conversations.
Yeah.
But one of the things I would tell my kids, like in front of people, like, I'm always going to stand up for you and I'm going to have your back. Doesn't mean I'm not dealing with it. Like, and there's repercussion, there's going to be discipline, but you will know that I have your back.
Right.
And I'm sure there's opportunities that I missed, because I love when you took us down the family aspect of standing up for someone, because I'm sure there was opportunities that I missed as a parent, where maybe my kids really wanted me to stand up for them, and I took the high road, or I was a little
tired road.
Right.
Listen. You can't listen.
It's hard, right? But at the end of the day, when I think about just the pillars, stand up, and just a remarkable job you did breaking this thing down. In closing, I do want you to really put into your own words, for those out there who are leaders, either in their family or their church or work. And can we just go ahead and say here that you don't have to have direct reports to have influence? Like, for me, a leader is someone who has influence, their decision makers. And sometimes that doesn't mean that you're a parent, like you have kids. But as you talked about, you mentor. Are you at the church? You may not be the pastor. I think a lot of times we equate leadership to pastor, but there's so many different ways to lead. And then even at work, just standing up for people who struggle. Because would you not say that it takes courage to really stand up for people? So what advice would you give someone, or encouragement, who struggles with that?
So struggles with just standing up?
Yeah, just standing up, like they kind of take the back road, or like you said, people will support you privately.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like you. If you can tell me privately what I'm doing matters or how good I am, but you never say it publicly, it makes me question, do you really mean it?
It's a challenge. There's a challenge. I think you touched on it in the chapter. One thing that it behooves us to be mature and humble enough to remember, where we felt vulnerable. Where as great as, when I made that analogy earlier, as great as those players are in the NFL, to be the elite of the world, those players who play under that rule appreciate the fact that the organization created that rule in protection for them.
Yeah.
And that everybody in the league has to respect the rule, because that rule was made for everyone, and they're able now to perform at a level in vulnerability because they realized somebody was thinking about them before they were thinking about themselves. Yeah. When you were playing Little League, the organization was making this rule that when you advance to become one of the most elite, you were walking into a culture that protected your purpose and protected your promise even before you were thinking about them. And so when you're in leadership, remember that at some point you were at the bottom. You had to be protected, you had to be nurtured, you had to be developed, and you had to be given chance to get to where you are. And that's where that humbleness comes in. You cannot get to a place that you believe that you are so effective, that you are so good, that you are so needed, that you forget where you came from.
Yeah.
Even when you are the creator of it.
Talk
Right? Even if you are the originator of it, if you are the origin of it, you didn't do it alone.
That's right.
And you needed someone to coach you. You needed somebody to say yes to a loan. You needed somebody to co-sign. You needed somebody to taste your cooking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you needed somebody, and little preachers, you needed somebody to say amen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You needed somebody to invite you. You had all of that. You needed somebody to give you a Bible or give you money to go buy a Bible. Like, you needed somebody. And so as you protect your people, as you develop people, you do it through a sense of gratitude and knowledge that you didn't get to where you are by yourself, and they need you to stand up for them, because and I'll say it this way: a pastor of a church, you may be the best preacher, but you're not going to be the best handler of money.
Right.
So you need somebody else, but you still got to be the pastor.
Yes.
You got to be knowledgeable of all positions around you, but you got to be humble enough to allow other people to fulfill those positions, and understand that there is no intimidation. Because if you're a dope trustee, if you're a dope deacon, if you're a dope janitor, if you're a dope worship leader, whatever, I'm still the best pastor. I'm the best preacher. Like I may not. Matter of fact, some guys are better pastors than they are preachers.
Break it down.
And so you got to be humble that somebody is over singing their way to heaven.
Wow.
And then you get up and preach, and you're a human sleeping pill. But here's what people appreciate: you're gonna call me, you're gonna visit me. The church ain't got to worry about financial issues. The church ain't got to worry, because you're a great pastor. But then you also understand that being great in who you are, you still got to function in levels that you're not the best in. And that puts you at a place of humility, that you're now willing to work with your team, because you understand that you're a part of a team that makes all of y'all great, because you recognize that there's a level that you are not the best.
I know that's right.
And so if you always function that I'm going to give at a high level where I am the best, but I'm going to function in a place of humility, hoping that the team rocks with me when I'm in my position where everybody knows I'm not the best.
Right.
But we're all equal, and we roll in this thing. That's when my partner said it the other day. I said, we had a great time together, man. You know what I'm saying? We saw so many dudes from the hood or whatever. Man, it was dope. He said this to me. He said, man, stuff always goes right when real ones get together.
Stuff always goes right when real ones get together.
So, leader, if you want to be great, don't always go for the best. Definitely don't go for people who look like you.
Uh-huh.
Just get you some real ones.
Just get you some real ones.
Get you some real ones.
Can I say touchdown?
Spike the mic. You got to.
You were speaking using the football analogies. And so I know a little bit because you're teaching me as we go along.
That's right.
Is it not appropriate to say touchdown?
Touchdown.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
A touchdown. Woo! Okay. So this was so, I don't know, like I feel great.
Yeah.
I always tell my guests, like I'm honored to have you on here, and I probably get more out of interviews. I don't even know how many subscribers I have. Like, I don't look at numbers because I would like to believe, like what you're saying, I'm just doing what I believe I'm called to do in this season. Right. And I just want to enjoy it. And I don't want to be distracted or discouraged by looking at numbers. And so I don't know, maybe you are just talking to me. Maybe I'm the only one benefiting from this, but this is what you know to be true. I'm going to share it because, you know, if you tell one, like each one teach one. Yeah. So your words will not be in vain. They will not go unheard, because if they're not listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube, guess what? I'm going to be singing everything I heard today.
Listen.
Woo!
This is dope.
Yeah. Hey, so let me ask you, Pastor TC. Mm-hmm. And you know I always call you TC. So you know if I'm saying Pastor.
Right.
Like, not Pastor. Okay. You're so deep. Like one of the things you said in the opening is you're more silly than spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as I look at the would you call that a mural in a sense? This is us, like your family all together.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that your family is your happy place. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other things that put a smile on your face or something you like to do to decompress, reset, and recharge? What is that for you?
Right. On a very, I mean, real talk. I mean, I could really say, you know, after this weekend, being my grandson, Thursday to Sunday, yeah, it was literally amazing, because he's at that place that we see him growing up, and so you see him process and see him thinking, and so yeah, I mean, anytime, I'm gonna tell you, because these first 8 months is work,
right?
I'm realizing I'm getting older, and now all these folk having these kids at 45 years old, that's pretty you and Jesus. And so but he does, man. And I'm gonna say this, watching my wife look at him, it's an experience, because he excites in her a love that and here's the beautiful, I don't envy, I'm not jealous of it.
I know you're not. I know that about you.
I love it. Because it does something for her. So you know, he is a point of joy and a happy place. But I also would share this, you know what I'm saying, as leaders, there's a book that I would drop, Leading on Empty, that I think every leader should read.
Leading on Empty?
Leading on Empty.
Who's the author?
Oh Lord, I forgot the author. He's a guy. He's a pastor from Hawaii. I just saw the name. I didn't say it, but Leading on Empty. You look it up. But one of the things he talked about is that you must recognize when your tank is empty. Yeah. You must recognize it. So for me, a happy place is the swimming pool.
Nice.
Yeah. When I man, listen, when it get rough and I am mentally and emotionally drained, if I'm able to get in the water, once I go under, I try to think about like the stuff that's got me weighted on my brain, and then I go underwater and I breathe out, and I try to swim as long as I can in that lane. And when I come up, I'm not thinking about none of that stuff. And so in my mind, I'm leaving it underwater. So that you know, to me, and those are post-pandemic things. You know what I'm saying? My grandson and the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Those are post-pandemic. I learned that we talk about that next time we chop it up. I learned that
Absolutely.
back in 2009. I thought it was over, and
Mm, you're good. You're good. You're good. Well, I tell you what, I am full. I
yeah,
am full spiritually. I am
good,
full emotionally. I
yeah.
am not full physically. I don't I do not like eating before interviews and before I have to speak. And
Got you.
so I like the AM because we
Yeah,
do the interview and then after we finish, I kind of disconnect and
yeah, yeah,
eat me something healthy, hopefully today.
yeah.
We'll
Okay.
see.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it promise.
Well, I'm
I
just saying,
appreciate
well,
the insight.
normally my happy place I discuss is desserts. And
Yeah.
actually Jamel kind of helped me, like he was like, well, maybe ask like your favorite dessert because that makes you so happy.
Hmm.
Now, that's not the only thing that makes me happy. And I
Right,
hope
right, right,
everybody realizes that.
right.
But sometimes when I've had a hard day, or that's my go to. And I
What's
don't
your
do that
favorite dessert?
often. Like, if I get like a dessert, it's an experience. And I'll watch like a lighthearted movie or just something that's really light or high
Yeah.
fantasy, just something to escape. And
Right.
I'll nibble on a dessert. But I have other happy places that some of you all mentioned as well.
What's your favorite dessert?
Cupcakes.
Really?
I love cupcakes. Yes. And so one of my favorite cupcake spots are in Cincinnati. It's in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's called Abbey Girl Cupcakes.
Hmm.
And from what I've experienced in this country of places I have visited, they still remain the best cupcake place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't
Okay.
treat myself often. You know, so,
Yeah.
so so that's what I say, like it's a for real treat when
Mhm.
I do it because
Mhm.
I don't just eat cupcakes every day, right?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I don't. But yeah, but it's about you right now. So we're gonna close on that note. And I just want you to continue to let your light shine and lead out of authenticity. Thank you for tuning in to Pillar Talk with Rochelle. Authentic people, real stories. Rochelle Armstrong, leading authentically.